Hi, I'm Jim Slick, President and CEO of SlickCyberSystems. I am here today with Chris Miller, obviously, working with me, and David Bopst from Channel, one of the executives at Channel. And he is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to cybersecurity and the like. So, without any further ado, today we're going to kick off a topic what every CEO should know about cybersecurity in plain English, not tech speak. So um, let's kind of get and jump right in here and checking my notes here. So cybersecurity is a business issue. So why should CEOs or executives be concerned with cybersecurity?
Well, the number one reason is that if they're not concerned with it, then their business is going to be in big trouble. Let's be very plain. Okay. What's going to happen is cybersecurity is not an afterthought anymore. It has not been now for a while. It changed during the 2020, 2021, during that pandemic area. But the everyone knows it's an issue all over the world now. It's the number one crime situation that happens. And for the companies that don't take it seriously, that they don't make sure that they're looking at all the things through their IT with their IT partners, they're the ones who are going to end up where their businesses are being disrupted. There's business being affected very badly. And as we can get down the line here talking about this, what do you get to the cost of what happens if you are have an attack?
Oh, big dollars,
Big
big
dollars.
dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I absolutely. So how, if you think about it, how could it hurt a business even just beyond the tech issue? I mean, it's far above and beyond.
Oh, no question. And I will tell you from someone that's lived this for many, many years now. Let's just say, the sake of argument, they're a $100 million customer, $100 million business. Okay, they do 100 million revenue. Uh, if they have a cyber attack and they're locked out and their business goes down, take that 100 million divided by the number of business days that they were open, and they're losing that every day. Take it down. You can take it down to the hour, take it down to the minute, and that should make everybody panic pretty good because that's reality. And that's the hard dollars. We're not even talking
Right,
about the soft costs
right.
where, of like you said, of fixing it, taking care of it. Um, and you can't put your head in the sand in it like the big companies do. You know, there's a lot of big companies out there. We know who they are. They put their head in the sand versus getting out in front of it, letting people know that something's happened.
Right.
That's the other thing is, and I think that where MSPs and other tech providers fail is that they're so afraid of having a conversation to really being direct. Look, you are there to operationally make sure that they're the best they could possibly be, so their office and their company runs at a high efficiency rate, and they're not only making a lot of money doing that and doing what they need to do, but they're growing and they're not having to think about it. If that
Right.
makes sense.
Exactly. No, I completely agree with that. That's something that we have always preached is you've got to, when the business, grows, we grow, right? I mean, so you've got to
100%.
help them make them profitable. So let's talk about the real costs of a breach. I know you touched base and said take that number, and
Yeah.
divide by, and it is all that, and even maybe a little bit more. I mean, if you
Hmm.
start looking at, if you do lose that data, how do you know who's going to pay you? Or who to pay, right? So
Exactly.
ARAP. I mean, just from a financial, who's your customer? Do you remember every one of them in your head? No, probably not. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's, I don't know what you call that, a hard cost or soft cost, but it's just a reality. I mean,
Absolutely. And I can take an even a worse direction. Okay. I had businesses that for my MSPs when I did a lot of finance, for example. Okay. So if you look at the compliance piece for FINRA, you look at the the situation of requirements that are out there to make sure that you not only comply, but you do the right thing so it doesn't happen. What happens to your business if everyone finds out and you're in the financial world that something happened?
You're
Your
done.
reputation. So I did a lot in education, universities. Their reputation is everything. It's all they've got. It's all they've got. When you look at the education system, law firms, God forbid, right? Everybody always focuses on HIPAA and they focus on the medical industry. Everybody's pretty, I would say, anesthetized, funny word, that they understand what could happen if the medical practice goes down or gets leaked or information comes out or they're hacked because it's happened and people talk about it. But what they forget to talk about is, some of these other areas of the business that happen. That what if someone gets all the financial data from Merrill Lynch? Oh my gosh, where I have my age, my person that handles my retirement money. What if it's someone that, again, if the University of Maryland, where I'm originally from, is hacked, and everybody goes, "Do I really want to send my kid there?" I mean, they think of those things, you know. And the number one thing to me is the law firms. Can you imagine right now with the law firms going on, and everyone all they want to do is want to sue? So you've got all this information floating around, whether it's going on in the federal government, and the firms are involved there, or in the states or anywhere. It's a tremendous crisis if that would happen. And again, we're just touching the surface there because
Yeah,
it could be
yeah,
any business, it could be manufacturing, it could be anything, but those are the ones that are most prominent on the news. That you see every day. They talk about legal issues or talking about what's going on in the market, right? Everything's about
right,
the market,
right.
so that
Yeah,
makes
so
sense.
yeah, so reputation based, and that trickles from there,
I,
like lava,
I
burning
Yeah.
everything.
I had a
Yep.
question that kind of in the backside of it.
Mhm.
We talk about it internally. Is it true that there's a fairly large percentage of businesses that actually shut down after a breach or some sort of incident along this line?
Well, I have to go to like one of the Gardner reports or something what the percentages come to, but it was my experience that no, it'd be probably less than 5 or 10% that actually have to completely shut down because a lot of people, especially if they're a 20 million or bigger business, they have a decent base to go back to and to work through. Um, so, and it's probably less than 5% is my guess, but at least that's what it used to be when I had all mine and I was doing those in the for those 15 years. So, but why chance it? It's like somebody saying to me, "Hey, especially with FINRA, let's talk about FINRA for a second. FINRA, they've added, the government, the Biden administration added a lot of new rules a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, actually. Was anybody paying attention to all the ones that they stagnated to get started? They're not going to be looked at anymore for a while. There's not. There's just too many other things going on, right? So, but if you're someone like I'll give a great example. You're a state farm agent, and you decide you're going to work out of your house. You're not going to get an office. You're not going to get one of those homes they always seem to get, for an office. Well, guess what? If you don't have everything done the same way you're supposed to, just like you were in an office from a security standpoint, the firewall, all the security pieces for it, everything, and you have an issue, that someone could lose their business. That someone's going to be out of business. That one puts themselves in a really, really bad spot,
Yep.
as an
And,
example, right?
and we see that
So,
a lot. We do
yeah,
see that a lot. Yeah, it's insane, absolutely insane. So leadership should set the tone, right?
absolutely.
So yeah,
And
I mean, if I think that's the executive panel, including any board, if there is a board, they really should be thinking about this and putting a strategic plan, together. And but it's got to get driven top down. I mean, this is
no question. And there's certain tools you need too that people forget about. They say, okay, what do I need? We talk about, for example, doing a disaster recovery plan, right?
yep,
That's the first stage. But it has to get to that next level, like you said, where they do even a bigger one.
this
It should literally be, what if we have a serious cybersecurity issue? If we have someone that breaches us, how are we going to handle that? Depending how bad it is. And you're 100% right. any CEO is not thinking about the different things right now, in my opinion, is that if they're not making sure that their team is fully invested in what should be done for cybersecurity policies, excuse me, what area that the solutions they need and the right people handling it. The next thing is, again, very, very important, and we're very fortunate at ChannelProgram that our product literally does this for them in a lot of ways. But if you look at it, they're looking at building efficiency, they're looking at their operations, and they're looking at make sure that they're not being wasteful. Well, you need to look at that as a CEO when you're talking about your cybersecurity piece, because that's where you can't make that mistake and say, okay, we haven't really looked at this. We can look over here and not maybe need something as much, but we can't not have it over here, which is the cybersecurity bin. And people do that every day. Unfortunately, they make these tough decisions. Say, "Oh, I can save here or there." It's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen to me.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. It may never happen to you. I used to tell people that all the time. But you know what? I don't want to be the partner with you that happens with. And secondly, most importantly, I don't under any circumstances want you to come back and say, how come you didn't tell me this?
Right.
Because we get blamed, right? We're in the
Sure.
technology field. Even though thanks to us, and thanks to people like you all, you're the backbone of the country. You're the backbone of the world. Without you, the businesses don't run.
Yeah. I mean, data is the business, really.
Yeah,
You make your
100%.
widget, but the data is it.
Exactly.
So what do you think I know you mentioned a business or disaster recovery plan, business continuity plan.
Hmm.
Um, what are the first three things? Let's just pick three. What are the first three things that a CEO should be doing?
Well, I guess, and again, I'm going to dummy it down for them because they typically don't want to understand that. I'm not the super technical guy. I'm not you guys. I mean, I'm the guy that understands it, and I lived it. Being a business owner and things. But the first thing I'm saying is you have to ask the question: how well am I prepared?
Okay.
Do I really have my what together? you know. Number two is the other they should be asking themselves, what's the cost to me if God forbid something happens? What's reality? And the third thing is, am I doing everything I can to enable and to empower my team to make sure that we have everything in place so that, again, we hope and like heck that doesn't happen. So that to me is the three critical things. And you have to look at it, like you said, for a CEO level, most of them don't want to deal with this stuff. I got my IT guys, or I got my MSP.
You,
But you have to be heavily involved. You have to be part of it. You have to be part of the solution. You just can't make it all about, the situation with that IT guy will absolutely do it. If they have a really good company like yours, or like what I had, we know it's going to get done. But what about the ones they're not sure about? So if they're not asking the question, they're then relying completely on somebody else for their business.
yeah,
Pretty
scary.
scary. Yep.
Scary.
Yep.
Good point. So, you know, uh, questions. So really, what you're saying is just to paraphrase or parrot that the CEOs should be asking their IT people, what are we missing? And what haven't we done yet? What haven't we thought of yet? Should we maybe get a third party involved? Whether if it's internal, right?
Mhm.
If it's external, hopefully they have a good MSP that they're working with, and or CIO or VCIO to be able to extract that information and present it, and cost it out.
But I want to add something there. It's not just them. They ought to be having these conversations with their CFO. What's it going to cost us, God forbid, if we're down? What's it going to cost us if we're down for X amount of time? Okay. What's it going to cost us, Mr. CFO, if God forbid everybody finds out that we screwed up? I mean, what are the real hard costs there?
Yeah.
Okay. Because the IT department, even though they may understand it, or an MSP should understand it better, most of them don't. So what are the
Yeah.
real financial impact there? Then from a CEO perspective, they can talk about, the detriment from the not just the hard cost of people not being able to work, but also you look at morale, you look at all the challenges that people get frustrated with. Is this the kind of company I want to stay with because we can't even do this? Now, again, it can happen to anybody because the hackers are very smart. They're global. These are not the kids in their basement. We used to always laugh at this. I used to always
Yeah.
say that whole thing, just playing around with things. These are sophisticated, highly educated people that are
Professionals.
there.
Yeah,
They're
professional criminals.
absolutely,
Yeah.
exactly. And they're not easy, but so if there was a magic bullet where you could guarantee they weren't going to be in there, then, they wouldn't need any of us. And obviously that's not there today,
Right.
unfortunately. So,
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, your legal and compliance risks. You had touched on this earlier in the
mhm,
conversation. I mean, even outside of just the lawyers, right, getting a hold of stuff. I mean, what about the compliance? From HIPAA, and if it's medical and et cetera. I
mhm.
mean, my goodness, that can get you in a whole heap of trouble, with the government.
No question. And, you know, again, everybody says, well, how's the government really going to come after us? There's so many businesses in the world. They may never do it. They may never be able to get to you. It doesn't change the fact that you're putting your customers or your patients or whoever it is at risk.
At risk, right?
And you know what?
And
You
that's
made them.
unacceptable.
It's totally unacceptable. And the other point to this is that they all signed something. They
Yeah,
sign something when they go in that they're doing everything they can to protect the data. The whole, so they had, or they can't be compliant as a business or as a, again, a medical field, whatever field it
right,
is,
right. Yeah.
it has to deal with that. So with that said, sorry, I just wanted to check something real quick. Okay, great. You know, look, I went through something where I was with a company. I was a very high level executive, and we had an incident. And for all you CEOs out there, if you haven't listened to this is the way you handle it. We sat in a room, and I'll never forget it. I was getting ready to get on a plane to go back from Miami back to my hometown because I was selling my house to move to Miami for the company because they moved my division from Maryland down to Miami. And I remember get off the plane, and my president says to me, my boss, he says, "Hey, this happened. We're going to talk about it. We're going to be calling all our customers." But what did they do? What did they do that was genius, and then they got recognized for it by the federal government eventually with the FBI and everybody, as we eventually caught the criminals. They went out and told publicly what happened. So if you're a CEO, and I want to make this very clear, if God forbid something happens to you, and it does happen, because again, it's not perfect. If it was perfect, nobody ever has to worry,
Yeah.
and we all do.
Yeah.
Get out in front of it. Don't hide behind it. Don't do what the big boys do. We'll mention names on a podcast, but you know who they are. They'll just bury their head in the sand, hope you all fix it, right? And
Yeah.
then tell them what's wrong with it, and then they go back and fix the bugs.
Yeah.
But I watched that, and that company, our company at the time, had the biggest quarter in history of the company that quarter because we
Wow.
were honest. We handled it really well. Again, no data went out, so it wasn't a breach, but it was still an incident. It was a big incident. It was all over the news.
Right.
So, but again, people look at how you handle things, how that gets done very, very clearly.
The public
So,
relations side, yeah, is huge.
yep. So I wanted to mention that because that would probably, again, it's going to fall on a CEO, this COO, or depending on where they stick HR, where they're sticking communication, corporate communications, depending how big
Right.
they are, they may have a corporate communication officer. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely incredible. So what is I'm just reading my notes here.
mhm,
So good cybersecurity.
mhm.
Can it help a company win deals? Like,
App, okay, yeah. Go ahead, finish there, finish that up, Jim. Did you finish your
yeah, that
question?
was,
Yeah, go ahead.
no, that was it. Yeah, that was
Oh, it
kind of
was.
there in a nutshell. Yeah.
Okay, so you were talking about win deals for their business or win deals for the IT side of the house because it goes both ways.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about both.
Okay, so let's do the first one. Let's do themselves, which they don't think about. If I'm the CRO of the company and I can confidently say that we put everything in place when we're out there selling our product because it does have information that nobody wants to see leaked, for the sake of argument, and I can have that conversation because I can in my business for our product better tracker from ChannelProgram. So I can from there because we do. We have that in place. Again, doesn't mean that God forbid something would happen. We'd all be lying, right? I'm not going to lie about anything, but we do. We have everything in place you're supposed to have in place. If they have that, he has that confidence with his team out there when they're talking to customers and they're talking to other people that they maybe want to market with them or whatever it is. That hey, we doing everything right, and our CEO's bought in on this. So and he's so behind it that look at our cybersecurity policy and our compliance policies, and we do everything that we can within our power that's out there today to put us in the right place that things like this should not happen to you all being one of our customers.
Right. To
Now
protect.
let's go to the other one. Let's go to the other one. The other one is okay. It's you all, and you're the technology a consultant, technology, strategic partner, and you're able to sit there and say to them, listen, I'm going to do something that I've been doing for my other customers. Again, operationally, I'm going to make sure that you are sound and as efficient as possible, not just running your business from a day-to-day perspective, but also that you make sure from a security standpoint, we're doing everything we can with the latest and greatest to put you in a position that you can sleep at night.
Yeah, perfect.
And that's where people don't understand that, the MSPs today all sound the same. They look the same. They have the same stacks. I can give you tons of it out of the Gartner and other places that do is what we have our own stats because we have, because that's how we started as a company. Where my owner, Kevin and Matt, they went out and gathered data and could get all that, and we know this. So what's going to differentiate yourselves? Well, you have to do a couple things. One is, like I said, you have to have some solutions that you're offering that show that you're in a different place, how you're convinced, how you're talking with somebody. And it's literally how, like I said, how our Better Tracker came out of it. And we're not doing a Better Tracker thing, Dave. I'm saying that's how it came out of it, though. But on top of that, when you're having that conversation, then you can say, I have solutions that are going to make sure that we're checking all the compliance on a regular basis all the time. Number two, we're checking and making sure we have everything in place that's going to keep you secure. Third, we're going to do something that's going to make you really, like I said, sleep at night. But most importantly, we're going to be proving it to you because every day your business is going to be up and running, and you're going to be safe.
Yep.
And I'm going to prove that to you by showing how we're going to do things and they really, the big buzzwords right now, all over the world, are again efficiency, optimization, like you said, security, waste. It's all over. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in the United States, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in, I talk to people all over the world, Australia, it doesn't matter. It's everywhere. So it's global. And if the people that put their head in the sand, these CEOs out there that go, you know what, my tech firm better have all those value added edges that they're looking at those key four things. And that dovetails in the end of our subject matter today, of being so tight on your cybersecurity that you've done everything right to the best of your abilities and to the best of the solutions that you've chosen in those abilities, that again, they can sleep at night and say, hey, I want to be with somebody like Slick. I want to be with somebody that, hey, gets this, versus coming in saying, hey, what are you doing for cybersecurity? Yeah, I'll do your backup. Sure, let's do this. I'll throw a sock in. I'd run you out the door. What are you talking about? Where's your thought? Where's your thought excellence in there? You're really the thought expert of giving me what I need to make sure that my business is doing those key things.
Yep.
But everybody wants to talk about the technology side of product or what it does,
Yeah.
And that's not how you sell it. If I started another MSP today, I know I could run over most of them because I'm really like, you're missing the bigger picture of what to talk about. And again, doesn't matter whether you like it or not, but you have to learn that, and you have to understand that the CEOs of this world want to hear it, and because they're looking at it, they're thinking about it, but they're not thinking about cybersecurity. So once you add that in to that component, like I said, of efficiency and operational readiness and the excuse me and waste, the light bulb goes off, and they go, "Oh yeah, I got to talk with Jim and Chris, man. I got to deal with these guys." Now they're talking something, especially prospects. If I walk into a brand new place to a CEO and I'm talking like this, and they go, aren't you here to sell me my IT? Talk to me about IT? Yeah, we're talking about technology efficiency, technology operational, steadiness,
Right.
waste. And they go, whoa, different conversation. And that's when the CEO likes being involved too. So,
Right.
I did have a question. You had mentioned earlier that
mhm.
CEOs put their head in the sand with regard to cybersecurity. And tell me a little bit more about that. What is it that you think actually makes a CEO, you know, hide their head in the sand, just not pay
Yeah.
attention to this?
Well, it was during my experience, my vast experiences. A lot of them don't get involved in decision making when it comes to technology, and other than cost, they're not really looking at it and saying, "Am I?" Like I said, ask those questions I said earlier. There's three questions. The good CEOs are doing that, and they've taken their head out of the sand. But in my years, up to before I started working for like I said, the big company, I it was amazing how many I go to the COO and say, "Let's talk to CEO about this." He goes, he doesn't care. She doesn't care. She relies on me for that. That's great. But today, maybe 10 years ago, that was fine. Today, ain't no way. They have to be involved in it. And I would insist, if I'm in your shoes or any other technology professional, look, no offense, but let's make sure that I know you're doing the heavy lifting, but he or she needs to understand exactly what we're doing here, because I guarantee you at some point he's going to ask you. So let's just make sure that he has the data, that he has the information, that you have the opportunity for him to understand it.
Okay,
Gotcha.
agreed.
Great. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Personal story, anything that would
No, I mean, again, it's I've been there, done that. I mean, I had a large MSP. We had a company that an employee made a horrendous mistake on a link, should have done,
Yeah.
and the outside person got through the printer, and because they would not let my team encrypt the printing right at the printing at the printer source. Um, Now again, we had everything backed up and everything, but we locked it down. They were out of business for about 5 hours,
Hmm.
but we did it so well. Not only that company who was spending $4,000 with us a year, he recommended us to eight other people in his field that we acquired that made it several $1 million worth of business
Wow.
Yeah.
because we handled it really well. So again, it's getting back to it. As I'm saying, and we had everything in there right. We had everything done properly. Um, we had we had everything. I mean, we certainly were backed up. We had it was very, very well done. But what we didn't, we educated. We were doing your typical. You're talking about phishing training and all those things. Make them take the
Yeah,
test,
yeah.
the employees. But you never know when somebody's going to be a bonehead and go into Google and they get a link and go, oh, I think I'll click on this. But this was a very sophisticated link. It was about Catholic charities. The young person was a Catholic, a Catholic parishioner, and wanted to donate. And they had a great one that looked really real from the diocese in DC. And guess what? It wasn't. And even though how much we train them, I remind everybody, people can
Mistakes
be
happen.
unfortunately not too bright.
I think that, in my opinion, and what I've seen in my career of too long,
Yeah,
the people are the number one risk. The employees
no
are the
question.
number one risk. Yeah, by far.
You're right. You're
But
right.
it's not to fault them. It's just they're human. They have other
Let-
jobs
let-
to do, and you train them the best you can, as you said before. So yeah,
yeah,
Trying to do
let me
their
give
thing.
you let me give you something that might help for the CEOs out there, that if anybody actually listens to us talking and maybe cares. But I've been very fortunate leaving where I did to do this and build this company. One of the things that I learned was how we could get to the CEO to listen better, is because the product that we provide, it manages all the contracts, manages all the spend, all does all these efficiency things, but it made them then look at those things, because then you're able to show them what's there, what the costs are, and what hard dollar reality is. And so more than just again, making you different and every other technology opportunity went with something that we do. But I'm just saying that if they were looking at those things even in a spreadsheet, let me just take myself away for a minute, because that's the way we used to do it. It was a spreadsheet. You stick an IT glue, or you stick it, in a documentation tool or something.
yeah,
But did he really look at those things, or she? Today, you can force that with a CEO, and I just did it with somebody on Tuesday of all things. A technology invited some CEOs on a call, and we did it that way, showing how much you know about what's going on in your business, about what you have for cybersecurity tools. They go, what do you mean? The IT guy goes, well, let's take a look at your agreements. Let's take a look what you're using from your IT that your company does. And some had an MSP, some didn't. But he didn't know. And finally, at the end of these things, they're all going, wait a minute, we got to have a lot more information here. You guys are showing me something that why are we not paying attention to this? It changed the dynamic. It changed the conversation. And it gets into your all wheelhouse of saying, great, I can show you exactly what you need to again, get back to those 3 questions. And I'd ask them those 3 questions each time. Are you involved in this? And we had one of them, just so you know, was a gentleman, this was in Iowa, it was an MSP in Iowa. And he said, well, my CEO doesn't want to attend. I said, okay, then we look forward to talking with you another time. And the guy looked at me, and again, it was a customer of his, but I said, he goes, why? I said, because this is so important. This was one of the ones that was a customer on this webinar, that if your CEO is not involved, one, you're not going to get the support that you really need. And I want you to look really good. I want you to be a great champion within the organization for what you need when it comes to, and we talked about it, cybersecurity, we talked about compliance and so on and so forth. And also, because everybody complains they don't have enough funding. And yet, if you don't fund what you're doing with technology, you're dead in the water. You're going to get hit. You're going to have a problem. So that changed. And you know what? He got the CEO on the call. He goes, you got a good point. Just say, we just need 5 minutes so he understands what we're looking at, what we're thinking. And we go through that piece with him. And then that's going to put you, in this case, it was a CEO slash, he was a CTO, because they had about 150 employees. And he literally was on there for 7 minutes, maybe. Came on, we gone off the webinar, had a one-on-one conversation, and he goes, this is you're talking my language. That was his exact statement to me. He goes, Ben, you're talking my language, man. I think about this every day. How efficient can we be? Are we operationally sound? And I said, do you worry about security? He goes, of course I worry about security. Then no one's going to say, oh yeah, I forget about it. But it made the other person in the room look really good that he had brought in this case, again, no one's an expert. I stay away from that word too, but someone who's extremely knowledgeable, is the thought who has the most thought, understanding in the room.
Right.
People like to run around and say, I'm a thought expert. Well, you're not a thought. I mean, no one. If you're an expert, then nothing would ever go wrong. You never have a problem. And I've also made that mistake, so I'm not perfect at that either. But we're not, And if we were, it'd be so much easier. But we surely try to be. We strive for it all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with striving for perfection.
Exactly.
Shoot for the stars. If you hit the moon, you're in good shape.
Yep.
Great.
Exactly.
David, it has been a pleasure having you on. Hopefully we can do another one again someday.
Absolutely. Be happy to do it.
I do have one simple last thing. Kind of, do you want to give us like a little info about your company, a little, or where they can find you if they do have any questions? I'd love to be able to hand that off.
Oh, sure. No problem. So ChannelProgram, we have our solution out there that's being used for MSPs to sell to customers, and customers using it's called Better Tracker. Better Tracker, again, it's just www.bettertracker.com. And but what's incredible about this is that, like I said, it manages all of your agreements. We pull them all in. There's tremendous amount of automation in there. And it pulls in using what's called Plaid. Plaid is something that has been used through Rocket Cyber and other places. Pulls all your expenses in for the last 2 years, attaches them, all the recurring ones, back to the contracts. And it actually monitors all of your spend so that if it ever changes at any second, you get an alert immediately.
Okay.
And you can see where you have duplications of things, we call it sprawl, right? Technology sprawl, all the sprawl where people are using things that they don't need. Extra things like that. So that's a quick elevator pitch. But
okay.
And we're very fortunate that we have hundreds of MSPs on it, and they're having a lot of success with it, which has been exciting for us.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, again, thank you so much. We loved having you here, and
sure.
Thanks for your time.
If you find this content helpful, please like the video, subscribe, and share with your friends and your colleagues. Thank you.